The Epic Real Estate Investing Show. Welcome. Glad you were able to check in with us today. This is where we show people how to invest in real estate so they can escape the daily grind and retire early. And today we're going to talk about your focus. If you're focused on the right thing in your business, could be a lack of focus or misdirected focus that's in your way of getting the results that you want. So I'm going to introduce you to my guest very shortly. Longtime friend. I'm looking forward to catching up with him, and I'm looking forward to introducing you to him. But first, I wanted to bring to attention the last event of the year, our last Epic Freedom Experience. And I don't know if we're going to continue doing this, but because it's such a timely thing, so it might change next year. So I'd love to invite you. It's coming up this weekend. And really what this is about, there are 7 imminent threats working day and night to take down your American dream. It sounds a little hokey, I don't know. But there's some really viable, important things for you to understand, from a rigged financial system to the inflation to financial illiteracy. There's 7 of these things that are stealing your wealth, regardless of how honest and hardworking you are. And just applying that extra hustle, that's just not going to be enough to save your financial future anymore. The system is failing us. And that's why I'm hosting this 2-day event, the last one of the year. It's a virtual event to arm you with the strategies, the resources, and support that you need to pull through the mess that the American people are in. So if you like the idea of preparing and upgrading your approach to success during an economic downturn and avoiding the big mistakes that led to so many others to lose everything in 2008, I want you to be there. Go to epicfreedomexperience.com, epicfreedomexperience.com. I think I got a fancy little graphic here I put together. Watch this. epicfreedomexperience.com. Go there and register. It's free, and it's 2 full days of amazing information. And if you decide to take the next step and work with us, fantastic. We'll welcome you with open arms. But what we are committed to is making sure that those 2 days are worth your while. And if you got your real estate down and you don't need any assistance doing that, you still deserve to be there. It's just that there's just like one certain way to do real estate that's going to virtually vaporize all these things that are upon us. Alrighty, so epicfreedomexperience.com. Alrighty, so well, I'm going to welcome my guest with us today. We're going to talk about focus and focus in your business. It's such an important part. It's actually become a really integral part of mine in the last 90 days. So it's a really timely topic for me to discuss. And it's one of those intangibles that a lot of people might not give the credit it deserves and give it the attention it deserves, and based on the results that it can have in your business and the people that you can help inside your business. Alrighty, so I'm just going to bring him on and we're going to catch up because we haven't talked in a really long time, and you guys can just feel free to listen in. And if any questions come up, there's the chat box right over there. I'll keep an eye on that. And when a natural pause or break comes up, we'll go ahead and address that. Okay, so please help me welcome to the show, Mr. Brad Chandler. Brad, welcome to the Epic Real Estate Investing Show.
Hey, good. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Glad you can make it. Good to see you. I haven't talked to you in a really long time. We met in a real estate investing mastermind. And it's probably 100 of the most prominent real estate investors in the country at the time. And then I was there for a few years. I think you were there for a few years. We kind of went our separate ways, and here we are back together. And from what I hear, I wasn't aware, but you've kind of taken off on a different direction and found some enlightenment and some discovery. And I just want to hear all about it. So bring me up to speed.
Yeah, so I started a company called Express Home Buyers, as you know, 19 years ago, and have done about 4,000 fix and flips, mostly in the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area. We're now in LA. We opened the LA office, and we're doing sporadically across the nation. And about 20 months ago, I went to get my son help for anxiety, and I was speaking with a lady, and she said, we're over a Zoom call similar to this, and she says, you have a tic. And I was like, well, what do you mean? She said, you blink profusely when you talk about your childhood. You may have some unresolved childhood trauma. Do you want to come out and work with myself and my ex-Navy SEAL husband? We have this intensive out in Park City. So I was like, sure, if it's going to help my son. So I went out, and in a matter of a weekend, really in 3 hours, this gentleman helped me completely change my life. We basically, over a 3-hour session, went back and looked at the things in my childhood that it my brain, which everyone's brain should do, creates these coping mechanisms, stories around what's happening to you. And those stories work at the time and help you get through that trauma. But 47 years later, when you're hearing these same stories of, I'm not good enough, I don't belong, whatever those stories are, it doesn't necessarily serve you.
Right.
So
sure.
it so dramatically changed my life, Matt, that I've dedicated my life. I'll be doing this for the rest of my life, helping other people who are suffering from really anything find that same freedom and happiness through self-love and self-compassion by just reversing these silly lies that all of us tell ourselves to some degree of we're not good enough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, so she discovered this or recognized this was something that was physiologically going on with you. And, so what does that conversation look like once you agree to go ahead and explore that?
Yeah, so I've developed a program over the last 6 months. I've had some really successful clients come through. It's a 5-week program, so we do these hour-long Zoom sessions, and then my third session is actually a hypnosis there session where we dive into your subconscious brain, and your subconscious brain is what actually drives all of your behavior, but you don't even know that it's doing it. So when you're fighting with your wife and you're arguing over, whatever, you left the toilet seat up, it has nothing to do with the toilet seat. Your subconscious brain is going to a point in your past where something similar happened and it made you feel a certain way, and it's going back there to protect you, and that's why you end up in these fights. So you're basically, it's a proven process over 5 weeks where we just walk people through and we get them from suffering and lack of self-love to no suffering and self-love, freedom, and happiness, really.
Mm-hmm. I've done a lot of personal development over the years. And there was one particular program that really had an impact on me, and I resisted with all my might of even going. My wife my wife at the time had invited me in over and over and over again, and I didn't think there was anything wrong with me, right? I thought I was just fine. I didn't like everything that you're explaining right now, and now I'm just repeating this because I can just imagine if somebody's listening right now. It's very easy to think like, I got my life under control. I don't need this, or it's like this intangible thing, or it's woo-woo thing, or, and I went and and I chose this word to even introduce you today, because it was a word that was really, really stuck with me. It's called enlightenment, right? And I think like when people hear the word enlightenment, they think of maybe the Buddhist monk, sitting on the hilltop and meditating and they know all things about nature, everything. But when you become enlightened about yourself and how you work inside of your own life, it could be really, really powerful. And I'm just kind of sensing, based on the way you're describing this, it's a similar type of experience.
Yeah, I mean, Matt, you made a great point. So 2 years ago, if we're having this podcast, and you were talking about self-love and asking me, did I have self-love when I was happy? I'd be like, of course, dude. Of course I am. I'm happy. I've got money. My business is going well. But all you have to do is look at the results. So do you find yourself irritated or stressed or depressed? Do you find yourself trying to prove yourself right all the time? Are you constantly judging other people? Do you judge yourself a lot? Do you have negative self-talk? Do you have any type of self-destructive behaviors? Do you come home and drink 3 glasses of wine? Do you smoke weed all the time? Do you eat too much? Do you gamble too much? Do you watch pornography? I could go on and on and on, but those are some of the major things that I see. If you're sitting there and you're like, I've got my life together, but you answered yes to any of those questions, you probably don't have your life together. Maybe that's not a good way to put it, life together. You lack some type of self-love, or on some level self-love and self-compassion. And if you do, I promise you, it is affecting you in all areas of your life, from your relationships to how your kids behave, to your fitness and health, to your business, on and on and on spiritually. So if you're in that boat, all you got to do is ask yourself those questions. Do you live a really harmonious life? Or are you always stressed or anxious? And do you need booze and cigarettes and weed and whatever to escape it? If you're always looking for an escape and always running, there's something you're running from. But the truth is, you don't have to run from anything, because you're great, you're perfect in your own way, and you just have to believe that. And there's a process to living in the truth and believing that.
Mm-hmm. Aside from maybe the substances, I think just the questions that you were asking initially, those would apply universally, just to every human being.
Not every human being, but I would say a large majority of them. Absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
You use the word enlightened earlier. 1% of the population is truly enlightened. So there's very few people that couldn't look deep in themselves and say, hey, why am I chasing this outside thing to bring me happiness? There's nothing outside of yourself that will ever bring you happiness. Everything you ever have needed to be happy, you have inside of you right now.
Yeah. I 100% agree with you. How do we make this practical for those that are listening?
Yeah, so
Right?
it's complicated, right? It's life-changing stuff. some people go and find God. Some people find it through meditation. Some people find it through journaling. But what you're really doing is you've got to get to the point in your life, somewhere between birth or the third trimester, actually, and probably 10 to 12 years old, where you had these traumatic or stressful events. And you've got to go back and you've got to figure out what are the stories that you told yourself around those events that your brain was supposed to as a coping mechanism. Do they still serve you, and are they still true? And I promise you, they're not true. They're not true. And so then through neuroplasticity, NLP, whatever you want to call it, you can reprogram your brain by listening to recordings, a recording about who you really are. And then when you have that, when you live in you can't suffer, Matt. If you're living in the truth, you can't suffer. If you're watching this right now and you're suffering, you're not living in the truth. And what does that mean, you're not living in the truth? That means you are telling yourself that you're someone who you really aren't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Are you in real estate at all anymore?
I am. We're gonna flip about 300 houses this year.
Okay. So let me ask you this, to try and make it really relevant for the audience. How has this impacted your real estate business, this internal discovery?
Yeah. So looking back now, 19 years ago, I started Express Home Buyers solely for the purpose of making a lot of money. Because if I had a lot of money, I'd be happy and I could prove my worth to the world because I didn't think I was worthy. Well, guess what? I made millions of dollars. I owned a luxury car, a yacht, 100 houses at one time. I was happy, but I wasn't anything like I am happy now. So my focus now has shifted from how do I go make a gazillion dollars, because I don't need to. I don't need to prove myself. It shifted to how can I make an impact on the world? So I look everywhere how I can make an impact. How can I make an impact on my sellers? How can I make an impact on my employees, my investors? So I'm coaching my employees. I had one of my first success stories was one of our virtual assistants in the Philippines, mid-30s, slept 2 to 3 hours a night, had major migraines, didn't have a good relationship with her son or her husband. In 3 1-hour sessions, we completely changed. She now sleeps 8 to 10 hours a night. She has no migraines. She has no anxiety. So I'm focused on making an impact. How can I make the lives of people better? And by that, my company is doing as well as it's ever done.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When I asked earlier, we were exchanging text messages, and I was asking, well, what are we going to talk about today? Right? And you talked about the focus on your business. If you focus more on how you're impacting others instead of the bottom line, I kind of concluded that the bottom line is going to take care of itself. Right? There's a great book. I don't know if you've read it, called The Millionaire Fast Lane by MJ DeMarco. I haven't. And it has nothing to do with what we're talking about today, other than he has a quote in there, is if you want to make millions, you have to impact millions. And he really focuses on just making the impact on as many people as you can in a positive way. And the money will take care of itself, right? That's fantastic. So Brad, this is great to hear. So this is your new business aside from your real estate. So what does that look like? I mean, this is something kind of brand new. So I can tell you're supercharged by it. You're excited about it. And I don't know, like what's next? What are you excited about most moving into the future right now?
So I mean, one of the things I think your listeners would be interested to hear is that I have systematized my business and I've put the right people in the right seats. I mean, we hear that from 20 years ago, Jim Collins, get the right people in the right seats on the bus, right? So I've got those right people now that I can trust my business, that I show up 3 hours a week to work. I show up for a manager's meeting on Wednesday, and I then meet with my CFO and I meet with my operations person, and that's it. I was born to do this type of work. This type of work is in helping people end their suffering and find freedom and happiness. So it's all I want to do. So thankfully, I'm in a great position where my company is running without me. And then what's the next thing? I literally every day wake up and say, how can I make the biggest impact? So I'm constantly focusing on my client success, and we're seeing some pretty amazing success. And I'm figuring out how can I take this to the masses. So one of my thoughts is I'm going to have people actually on the show, on these type of podcast shows, where we're going to do this hypnosis and this transformation live, so that the whole world can say, you know what, that's me. I drink too much, and I drink too much because of my childhood. And you're telling me that I can fix this? I've been going to therapy for 30 years and on and off marriage counseling with my 3 wives, and I can fix this? Yeah, you can fix it. That's what I want to do. I want to bring this to the masses because there's a lot of turmoil in this world. There's a lot of good, but there's a lot of things going wrong, right? And
Mhm.
there's a fix to everything. It all comes down to an individual's lack of self-love and self-compassion. I can trace that back to 99% of the world's problems. And guess what? I have created, through working with some of the best coaches in the world, a proven system that can fix all that and bring people an end to their suffering and make them happy and find them freedom.
Sweet. So the ideal person for you, you kind of ran down a list. If you're thinking this or you're thinking that, if you're doing this or doing that, there's something missing where you could be happier, right? And you're saying that you can help people with their self-love and their compassion, right? Um, how does someone, like, is there a shortcut to really identifying that? Because if someone's listening right now and they're like, well, that's not me. I love myself. I'm good. You know, like, is there a shortcut to, like, kind of diagnose? Like, you, for example, the lady that first reached out to you, she noticed some sort of physiological tick, right?
Mhm.
I'm not saying it has to be physiological, but if there's a recurring pattern or some consistent or persistent challenge or stoppage in someone's life, what's the ideal client for you, I guess?
I mean, so the ideal client is it's anyone who's really suffering. And I haven't niched down. I haven't figured out my ideal client because I really feel like I can help a lot of people. I think the first place to look at is if you can't have a deep connected relationship with another human being if you don't have a deeply connected relationship with yourself. So first of all, if you're in an intimate relationship, look at your relationship. Ask yourself, am I in a deeply connected, really solid relationship? And if the answer is yes, go home tonight and ask your spouse or your partner the same question. They might have a different answer. So I'd start there, and then I'd start to ask yourself, how do you feel? Do you spend all day? I spend 99% of my time now in a peaceful state. I get triggered by my 15-year-old daughter maybe once a week. Other than that, I really don't get triggered. So are you always in a triggered state? Are you always judging people? Are you yelling and getting upset about small things, the milk being spilled, the dog peeing on the rug? Any of those things are signs that something internal is not right in you and can be fixed.
Awesome. Awesome. So if someone wanted to reach out to you, the best way to do that would be there, bradchandler.com.
Yeah, bradchandler.com/contact. And I have all of my social media. I put out a daily video on all of these topics, love and happiness and freedom. So you can search me and find me and follow me there.
Awesome. Thank you. Can we talk a little bit about real estate?
Absolutely, man.
Okay.
Yeah, we talk about the market and some advice. I've been through
Yeah.
this, been it for 20 years, so I got some
Right.
details.
Yeah, it's a little bit longer than me, so it's always nice to talk about people. So I went through the first downturn. I had just got started investing right before it crashed, so that was a nice introduction to the whole business.
Yeah.
But pulled through, and here we are today. And I don't know if it's going to happen again. It seems like there is going to be some sort of pullback or adjustment or correction. I don't think it's going to be the same impact or magnitude. That's all right. We love dogs.
The pizza just arrived.
Oh, there you go. The dog is happy. You need to get that real quick. I'll answer this question real quick. Lord Shiva, welcome to the show. Thanks for your comment or your question. So how can I get started in real estate? Gosh, there's so many channels and avenues to get started these days. I mean, there's just no shortage of options. I would love for you to look into and work with us, but there are so many good people out there training and educating. I think that the newest wave of gurus are, and I'll just call them gurus for lack of a better term and ease of communication, but there's so many doers out there now that are actually doing real estate and teaching at the same time. And a lot of them got YouTube channels, they got podcasts. So if you just go and type in how to get started in real estate, you're going to have an unlimited number of options to choose from. And there's some really good people out there right now. Some people, I mean, I've been doing this for 15 years and I'm like learning stuff from people that haven't been doing it as long as me, which I find really interesting. But I would say type that in, could be a good first spot. If you'd like, go to Epic Freedom Experience, where it's a 2-day virtual event that we're doing this weekend. It's totally free. And yes, if you want to take the next step, you can come and perhaps coach with us. But I think it's going to give you a good lay of the land of what real estate is and why it's so important. And I kind of began the show with this as far as how the American dream is really getting attacked right now, with the inflation and the interest rates and the mass migration and just what's going on with the global economy. I I want to be much smarter at it, but every time I dig deep down to that rabbit hole, I scare myself a little bit and I stop. But real estate, you want to align your investments with people's basic needs. And the only thing, and then if you can leverage that, you can leverage a deflation. What's the word?
Inflationary protection, asset protection.
Yeah, is it? Oh my gosh, I just went blank. Depreciating. If you can leverage a depreciating asset to invest in an appreciating one, I think you get on the right side of the economy and you have this inflation thing work for you. And what I mean is you borrow somebody else's money to buy your property that you're going to hold, and you're kind of shorting the dollar, so you're getting the maximum benefits of the devaluing dollar, and you're getting the maximum benefits of shelter. Of the need for shelter. And right now, what's different about the market right now, and tell me if you agree, Brad, is that when the market crashed in 2007, 2008, we had the loan scandal and everything, but probably even the bigger one, or at least equal, was we just overbuilt. We had too many houses for how many people are out there that needed those houses. And here we are, 15, 16 years later, and that is completely reversed. Now we have way too many people and not enough houses. So I think that the pullback in the market that we see right now is really somewhat of an artificial one. It's being manipulated by the monetary policy. It's making it more expensive to get the money to buy the houses, so it's impacting affordability. But that need for housing hasn't gone anywhere, and it's only going to get bigger and bigger. I think the next 24 to 36 months will have the biggest demand, the biggest disparity between people and housing than we've ever had in the history of this country. So if you get in a position to where you're controlling inventory, where you're controlling houses, I think you've got job security for the next 10 years at least. That's my opinion. What do you think, Brad?
I agree. I mean, it's really interesting to see in the DC market what's happening with the interest rates rising. I mean, we are definitely taking a hit on prices. I mean, we're selling stuff for 6, 7, 8% less than we underwrote it just 60 days ago.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Do you think it's, and it really, I mean, do you agree that it's really just the monetary policy that's impacting it?
Dude, I think you put that amazingly well. Absolutely. It's, there is a huge 5-year, in the next 5 years, there's going to be a huge housing shortage. So when you have a supply that's constrained, that means prices usually go up. So if I think that this is just a reset, a shock to the system because of the interest rates, I think the interest rates, they might stay they might go down. But I think eventually the prices are going to have to, level out and then start going back up because of the supply demand curve.
Yep. I totally agree. Do you think they can push the rates much higher? Do you think they will?
So I've been hearing since the beginning of the year that 8% was kind of I hear 8 to 9%. So yeah, I mean, who knows what's going to happen with inflation? They may push them. It may get to 8 or 9%.
Yeah, it could. I don't think, I just think the way that politicians work, and I don't care what side of the fence you're on, if it doesn't get votes and doesn't make money, it doesn't get done, right? And I think if they push this too much further, it's going to cause a little bit more pain than they would like to have in the population, and it could hurt votes. So
yeah, I mean, there's pain from both sides, right? Though if they don't push them up, price of gas and hamburgers is going to triple or something, and then no one's going to be afford to drive a car or eat. So they're in a pickle for sure.
So how is this changing your business based on your outlook? What are you doing differently in your business right now?
Well, fortunately, we've been through this. There were different, like you said, market economics and conditions. But at the end of the day, we're in a market where the prices are coming down. So we got to be really careful what we're buying, because you could buy something that you think is going to sell for $400,000 and then go to sell it 6 months from now and it's worth $350,000 and there's all your profit. So we're being really careful about what we buy. We're looking a lot at the actives. That's what you have to do in a declining market. Don't focus on the solds. I mean, these new investors are all being taught, because in the last 10 years, no one talked about looking at actives. Look at the solds. So new guy comes on, new girl comes on and does his research, says, oh, I see there's a sold 3 blocks down or 3 doors down for $250. Well, guess what? There's been one on the market for 30 days for $200. Your house isn't worth $250. It's not even worth $200 because it hasn't sold in 30 days or 60 days. So just being more careful. The further out you go from metro centers, the harder it is to move the product. We're going to probably get back to doing, not that we never did, we always did really good renovations. But, I can remember back in 2008, 2009, my partner at the time, or still my partner, said, look, we're not selling 1,000 houses. We just need to sell one house in one neighborhood. Let's make it the nicest house. So we made it the nicest house. We did the landscaping. We staged stuff. So we're back to staging houses. We're back to spending $3,000 or $4,000 on landscaping. We want, when someone drives by, we would be like, oh, that's a beautiful house. Let's go check out that one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What I found interesting is that the prices are dropping for the stuff that hasn't sold, but the stuff that's actually selling is not coming down nearly as fast. Like that median price point that of our all-time highs is kind of holding. Are you seeing that?
You know, I honestly, I don't look at enough
You
detail
haven't looked at it?
in my
Okay.
business to do.
Yeah, no, it's just interesting. So to your point is, if you are a fix and flipper and you have the nicest house in the neighborhood, you're probably going to do okay.
Yeah, well,
You know what I mean?
you're gonna do okay today. If you're taking it down today and it's gonna take you 6 months at the market, I can't tell you. I mean, it could
Exactly.
be the same price, it could be 10% lower, it could be 5% higher. I
For
don't
sure.
like, no one really knows.
How are your conversations with sellers going? Are they getting the picture, or are they being a little stubborn?
So I'm just now hearing they're just starting to get like, oh yeah, I saw that on the news. Oh yeah, I heard. We're getting crazy amounts of listed prop. We didn't have a listed phone call for forever, right? I mean, occasionally. Now we're getting all kinds of phone calls from listed properties saying, will you buy my house? Will you buy my house? Will you buy my house?
Yeah, yeah, same over here. The marketing's working really well right now.
Yeah.
You don't even have to market. Speaking of which, what type of marketing are you doing that are you getting the most response from?
So I think you've known our bread and butter has been TV for many, many years. We spend millions and millions of dollars on TV.
Brad, are you the one that had the jingle?
Express Home Buyers, we buy your house in 7 days.
That's right. I remember you singing it at the mastermind.
Yes. So we do TV. We got into streaming recently. It's been pretty good. Where we're going on like platforms like Hulu and Roku and stuff. And then we're digital. We're the Facebook ads and the Google pay per click and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Do you know Ryan Pineda?
I do.
Okay. Yeah, he's here, and he was on the show, I don't know, a couple months ago, and I've gotten to know him a little bit. And I asked him about his marketing, what's working really well, and he says, I only do TV. I haven't done anything for 5 or 6 years. It's just TV. We can't keep up with the amount of info that comes from the TV commercials. Still working for you then?
Yeah, it's still working.
It's awesome. Awesome. Well, sweet. So the new venture and your ideal client would be, let's recap this, and where should they go?
Yeah, so the ideal client is anyone who's suffering that just feels that something isn't right in their life, whether it's a relationship or how they treat themselves or their addiction or drinking too much, whatever. And just go to bradchandler.com /contact. I've got my little 3-minute story telling about my story. I've got my cell phone number on there if you need to call, if you're in distress. You can set up for a free 30-minute call. I just want to help you guys. I've been where you've been. We're all one, in my opinion. So your suffering is my suffering. We're all together in this. And if I can help you in any way, shape, or form, and if I can't help you, I'll put you in the direction of someone. But just leave here knowing that you don't have to suffer, and that if you live in the truth, and the truth is that you're enough, that you're good enough, that you really can't suffer when you live in the truth. So
yeah,
I'm here for you.
You had said one other thing that just occurred to me again was, it impacts your relationships, it impacts your business, it impacts your marriage, or maybe your relationship with your kids. And I started when people come to our office and we launch their business, we'll spend 2 days with them right at the beginning to get everything launched and to get them trained up, everything set up, and boom, they're off to the races after that. But one of the things that we do there is we go through an exercise of how you do one thing is how you do everything, right? And so it was part of a personal development program. I'm hearing a lot of similarities, what you're saying or what you're talking about from that program. But it was kind of like they said, okay, so how you make your breakfast in the morning is the same way you drive to work. It's the same way you deal with money. It's the same way you deal with your parents, right? There's all these little similarities, and you can get these massive breakthroughs by researching other parts of your life. And then you can see these correlations inside of your business. And, I think most of the people here are going to be business focused. And so, but I just don't want them to dismiss what's going on with them personally and how they impact, say, with how they're interacting with their wife or their husband, because you could have a breakthrough over there with that relationship. It can have significant impact on your actual business. I've seen it happen. It's happened personally to me.
Yeah, so a podcast I did recently with my friend Dr. Eugene Choi. You can go look it up on any of my social media pages. He's an expert in the neuroscience of happiness, and I don't know the exact stat, but it's like entrepreneurs spend 73% of their time in a triggered state, in a fight or flight state. And why do they do that? Because of this unresolved childhood trauma, this unresolved stress from childhood. Well, what happens when you're in a fight or flight state? If you're running from the lion, Matt, are you going to be building a business and strategizing what you're going to do tomorrow? Is your creative mind going to be working? No, everything shuts off. So imagine if you've had success. And when I went through my transformation, the guy said, imagine the success you've had with the shortcomings that you've had. Once you get rid of that and you're in a relaxed state and you're not always triggered, you don't feel this anxiety every day, this pressure, this depression. Imagine what you can do with your business. I'm living proof of it. Like my business is way better than it was before, when I was trying to chaotically, I got to go to this market. I got to make $1 million here. I opened a Keller Williams team in 2008, Matt. And in 2 years, we were the #1 Keller Williams team in North America. My goal was to be the first agent team to sell $1 billion. Why? I could be worthy, right? Did I look at the bottom line at all? No. Did we probably lose $1 million doing it? Yeah, but I got a nice little plaque with Gary Keller of Keller Williams standing next to me. Yay. But I lost $1 million. So that was my ego. That was my subconscious. When I say your subconscious drives your behavior, you don't even know it. I didn't wake up one day and say, I'm going to lose $1 million trying to become $1 billion worth of sales, because then I'll be worthy. I just did it. I was flying unconsciously, right? Now I know that, and I would never make a mistake like that, because that's a silly thing to do. But I couldn't see it then. And you're sitting here listening to this, and the same thing's happening to you. You're doing silly things in your marriage and your health and your, addictions. And you're like, why is this happening? Well, that's why it's happening, because you're telling yourself this silly story that was programmed from the time you were probably 2 or 3 years old.
For sure. Amen to that, brother. All righty. So thank you, Brad. I appreciate you. If you want to get in touch with Brad, great dude. I vouch for him 100%. Go to bradchandler.com. bradchandler.com. All right, partner. It's a pleasure. Let's stay in touch. Let's not wait until 5 years before we talk again.
All right.
All right. Take care, buddy.
Bye.
All righty. So that's it for the show. And if you like what you heard, give us a big like, hit the subscribe button. And if you found this episode valuable, who else do you know that might as well? There's a good chance you do know someone else who would. And when their name comes to mind, please share it with them and ask them to click the subscribe button when they get here too. And I'll take great care of them also. Alrighty. God loves you. So do I. Health, peace, blessings, and success to you. I'm Matt Terrio, living the dream.